Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's Nat Walsh. I am playing with some watercolor and the Berries Bunch stamp. These watercolors, they were gifted to me. You cannot get them, last time I looked, you cannot get them here in Australia, but any watercolor will do. I am going to do a little bit of no line watercolor. I am using the Desert Sand by Memento Tuxedo, not Memento Tuxedo Black, Desert Sand Memento ink. I'm also going to use a little bit of, sorry if you can hear some banging happening in the kitchen, a little bit of masking as well. You do have to excuse the band-aid on my hand. I have been having a lot of fun with making sourdough bread, and my loaves haven't quite come out properly. I'm still working. It's a process. It's a real process. It's been interesting, and of course I've had to tweak things to suit my house and how warm it gets, and I've had to adjust and basically be patient, waiting for my sourdough to double, like the starter to double. So let me know what if you have done sourdough, let me know down below in the comment box what is your favorite recipe, or leave me a link because I am open to anything. My sandwich loaves are working just fine, but the actual sourdough is not. But I'm down to timing. I'm down to timing a little bit more. But anyway, I digress. One of the loaves I was cutting up, the knife slipped, and hence I have a little bit of a sore thumb. At the moment of doing this voiceover, it's fine. It's all done. It's all finished with. And I've got another loaf waiting to rise and do all that sort of fun stuff right now. Anywho, I am going to zoom in very shortly. Not very shortly, but in a little bit, I'm going to zoom in. I'm using about 3 different colours with a touch of something else. For the leaves, the colours that I'm going to be using and I may kill these names, so please forgive me. Cobalt green, jade green, and a little bit of indigo, just in the darkest areas, and that's what I'm also going to do with berries. I've got a couple of colours with a touch of something just to make them a little darker. With watercolouring, it's long lines in the sense of not how I colour, because watercolour is obviously different from Copic colour and any other colour, but I am thinking about, I'm putting the darkest colour in where it is going to be dark, where I would think that it will be darker, using clear or just a clean brush or a fairly clean brush just to pull that color out a little bit more. And I just keep going through until I'm happy with the layer, and then let it sit. That's the thing with watercolor. I'm not like, I like to double. I wouldn't say I'm not a professional artist in the sense of watercolor artist, but I like to play. And this is what I like to show you, my experiments, and see what I've done and how I've done it. With Copic colouring, it's the same. I probably do it a little bit incorrect, but I find that it works for me, and that's fine, and I am happy with that, and I'm comfortable with that, and you do you, basically. When these have a little bit of time to dry, then I'm going to go back through and add a little bit more, hopefully depth of colour, and also adding in a little bit of like the veins. I'm finding with this watercolor paper, it's very, what would be the word for it? It's sort of, as I said, I'm not a professional. I just like doing what I do, and I have fun, and I like to try and teach people along with me. It grabs the color a little bit. basically. This is very helpful when you're doing the veins and you don't want to bleed it all out. The berries have deep red amaranth. I don't know, but I think that's what that is. And a little bit of black just in the very, very darkest colours. Generally, I do like a little bit, like 2 layers of colour, let it dry. It can actually, it sort of all depends on how it's going. This, if I'm still not happy after it's dried, after it's settled, you may see me go in a little bit more. You may see me add a light line for my veins in my leaves and that sort of thing. But I try and step back and let it go. That's pretty much the thing that I find with watercolor. And what you'll see, people that know a lot more of watercolor than I do, you do have a little bit less control, and that can be fun. That can be fun. I think that's very fun. I'm working through these berries. I'm not going to show you all of them because it's just time. It's just too hard. If you'd like to slow it down and have a bit more of a look of what I do, just make sure you mute me, because, you know, I'm going to start sounding really funky. The next color I'm going to do is the sepia brown for all the branches and the stems. Trying to do it with a really light hand. And I'm going to go back in and I'll finish off all those berries. I will catch whatever. If I realize that something should have been, I haven't quite got it, and something was a bit of a leaf, I'm going to go back through now and pretty much fix all those little tiny bits. But sometimes it's hard. The great thing is that we can use the stamp and use the printed image on the acetate. And you don't see it in this video, but what I did do a couple of times is just place the image back over my stamped image, the printed image over the stamped image, just to see what would have been a berry or what would have been a leaf. Because with no line colouring, again, the problem is it can be a little bit harder to see. But I really like the effect that it gives you, because that's what you've got in real life, and I really quite like that sometimes. I will leave a link down below over to the blog and it's pretty much just the berry branches image. I am going to use this stamp set for my greetings. We've got a little hello. This is hello, happy birthday stamp set. It's a nice solid image. I'm going to stamp it quite a few times. I'm going to stamp it at least about 3 times. One, because you've got watercolor cardstock here. This cardstock is not terribly textured, but there is a bit of texture, obviously. And stamping it 3 times, I'm going to leave a really good deep imprint of it. Here I'm just checking and making sure that it's all dry, because I realized I hadn't done that yet, and it was pretty good. This is stamping with just some pigment ink, so it's nice and black and lovely with some white, clear embossing powder. This is just some cardstock out of my stash, and it's a pretty simple little card, basically. The only last thing we've got to do, of course, because if you know or been around my channel for any length of time or see any of my videos on Paper Rose's channel, I've always got to put something, like a bit of drops and a bit of sparkle. I did a card actually the other day for a recent class, and I had nothing, and the girls were like, oh my goodness, there's no sparkle on this. I'm like, nope, not this time. These are just some little drops out of my stash. If you like what you've seen, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button and the little bell, just so you can get notified every time the Paperrose and I upload a video. I have just added a couple of lines of white gel pen. This is going to give my berries a little bit of a shine, illusion of a shine. And that's pretty much my card. Zoom in a little bit. So I hope you're well. Take care, and I'll talk to you very, very soon. Bye-bye.